and welcome to our first Children Inspired by Yoga podcast, Chatty Bumpkin. This podcast is going to be an insight into child development. We're going to be speaking to Children Inspired by Yoga teachers, franchisees, and lots of different people that we work with. And we're super excited to be doing this with you guys. My name is Hannah. I am the business development manager here. We're super excited to be here today, and we're going to start by getting to know our founder and CEO, Sam Petter, who's also here with me. Hello, Sam.
Hi, Hannah. Hi, everyone.
I'd love for you to kick off by sort of introducing yourself, what's your background, and how you came to do what you do.
Oh, yeah, thanks for asking. So basically, I'm a designer by trade. And I guess the thing is, I'm just all about the creativity and the creation, and that's what I love. So I'm also a yoga teacher, as it happens, and it's really a culmination of those two passions that have led me to Tatty Bumpkin. I started it in about 2004 after a tricky journey to get pregnant. And so during that time, I trained to be a yoga teacher, and I found it just offered so many benefits and kind of a real sort of deep stillness that helped me get through it. And when I had my son, I just found that there really wasn't anything out there that reflected that holistic approach to self-care, and just like how much benefit I'd got through yoga. And at that time, there really wasn't that kind of thing out there for mothers and children. So that's when I started Tatty Bumpkin. And for me, the kind of playfulness and the child-led approach is really important. And what I love about my business is that I get to do a little bit of everything. So I do the design, write the stories, do the training, see the franchisees grow and develop, support the teachers, do things like this. We've traveled the world as well to teaching and training. So it's really multifaceted and creative. And best of all, I guess I get to structure my own day, because I'm above all else, I guess I love working for myself, and I've only ever really had one job, and that was as an art director, and I was sent out to Australia to set up an office there. And so again, I was kind of working on my own, sort of doing my own thing, and that's what I really love. That's what drives and motivates me. So that's a little bit about how I came to set up Tatty Bumpkin, and that was all of nearly 20 years ago now.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Yes, you guys will get to know Sam quite well over the next several podcasts. And she really is such an interesting person. When she's multifaceted, I feel like you have more strings to your bow than anyone else I know. Like if there's something to be done, and I think you probably learned it through doing this business, Sam can do it from tech and IT to design to creation to getting on your knees and doing kids yoga to singing and dancing to setting up events. Literally, it's quite impressive, actually. Okay, so what is Children Inspired by Yoga?
Well, before I answer that question, going back to your original point, I'd like to credit my dad with the fact that I can pretty much do everything, because he always said that, you, especially I guess being female, he is like, you have to be able to man a power tool, change a car tire. You have to assume that you're going to own it and take control of it. And I think that's really true. And that's sort of what we inspire the kids to do as well, a little bit, is to take responsibility and to own it. So in answer to your next question, what is Children Inspired by Yoga? We're inspired by the holistic approach of yoga. And so that means looking at the whole child. That's the first thing. And we love yoga because it's non-competitive. Everyone can succeed and achieve at their own pace. And as well, it's creative and multisensory. So we say it's a multisensory class inspired by yoga, incorporating movement, music, and storytelling. And that sounds like a bit of a mouthful to say, actually. So it's basically creative, playful fun, but with a very structured developmental underpinning. And that's really important. So everything we do is linked to the Early Years Foundations framework, or the key stage 1 and 2 curriculums, because it has to be meaningful activity, and stories very much are. I guess what we have that's fairly unique is we're firstly centered on the child, so it's child-led, and we want children to have been motivated and inspired to take part, and then their life skills will follow. And then we also want the parents who hold the credit cards to be engaged and to subscribe to our programs. And that's often quite tricky because a lot of parents don't do yoga themselves, and they definitely can't imagine how a 3-year-old's going to do yoga. And then we've also got the educators. So we've got the teachers and the schools and the nurseries, and we engage them by linking everything to the curriculums. So we aim to really meet everyone's needs, but primarily we're looking at a fun, creative, child-led, playful class that gifts life skills and the 4 pillars of development, which are self-regulation, postural control, sensory integration, and coordination skills. And those are also woven in to the fun and creative stories. God, that took a long time to say, didn't it?
No, it was good. And actually, I think any parents out there listening are going to be really interested, I think, to hear more about what we do, what makes us really unique. If somebody ever asks me, what makes you unique, what makes you different to other yoga programs for kids, is that we aren't adult yoga for kids. We are designed for children with that, and it's that underpinning of that developmental aspect and the curriculum links that really make us like extra special. And
no, that's right. I think it's always difficult when you're selling a child's product, whatever it is, because you have got those different levels of customers, and it's really important to acknowledge each of them and to make your offering as appropriate and sort of knowledgeable and palatable as you can for each of those groups. And so with that in mind, we have the classes for the kids, which are fun and creative, playful, and gift a life skill. And then we have curriculum links for each session, which are aimed at the educators. And then we have documents for parents, which demonstrate what the child did in their class every day. So each week, all 3, groups are given information that's appropriate to their interest level, really.
Yeah. And that, again, I mean, that goes on to the documents that come with all of our classes and stuff are just incredible. And it's just such a well thought out program. I mean, because of the 20 years experience, I just don't think there's anything else. It's unparalleled.
I mean, I tend to agree that even in the 20 years I've been doing it, I still feel as passionate about it as I did when I first started. And nothing I've seen has changed my mind about how successful, it is in terms of benefiting the children. I think it is tricky because sometimes when you're working with kids, less is more. So, for example, our classes are very nuanced. We use we're almost like a conductor. So you're letting them go, be energetic, then we're bringing them down. We're using 2 internal senses, which are the vestibular and the proprioceptive sense, which we'll talk more about later. But one of them energizes and one of them calms. And by using them in an appropriate way, you maintain this just right level of alertness, which is perfect for taking on information and learning. So a lot of kids' activities, I think we think that more is more as adults, and we definitely really don't trust children to be still or to relax, because sometimes we can't even imagine ourselves doing that. So sometimes it's a leap for parents to think my 3-year-old's going to do yoga. And so I feel like that's one of our biggest challenges, is getting the adults to trust in the children. And I see that time and time again. And often the children, even 18 months, 2 years, they will be the ones who are first to lie down into relaxation. And the adults are often staggered because, it's either something they find difficult themselves or they've never witnessed before. So it's a very nuanced program, and it's not maybe what people might expect in a world of loud music, bright lights, lots of action. That isn't really our thing. So it is kind of like, definitely like a less is more, and helping people to understand the power of it, really.
Yeah, and children anyway are like, they epitomize being present, don't they? I think with adults, even if I do yoga, or I was meditating this morning, and no matter how much I do it, if I'm particularly stressed, my mind is just racing because we're thinking of the future, we're thinking of the past. But actually, kids don't massively have that. They're quite present. So I can imagine that when you then guide them into that, it really works pretty well. And when I've taught the classes, I'm blown away by I've taught for many years doing different things, and I used to teach dance, and I used to teach like go to kids' parties and all kinds of things, and it's very, like you say, more is more. And when I first did some Tati Bumpkin classes, I was kind of blown away teaching sort of 18 months to 3, how engaged they were. And particularly at the end when we do the relaxation, and when I've spoken to sort of nursery teachers or things like that, they always say, oh my gosh, that was just amazing. At some point, all of those kids were engaged, and even the ones that maybe aren't usually engaged and they're off doing something, they at some point throughout that class are. And the more you do it, the more they're engaged, and it's really quite amazing. And like I was chatting to someone the other day, and she'd sort of said, my nursery sent me a video of my 3-year-old doing this class, and I said to them, what wizardry is this? Because it's just so magical, and it really is so cleverly created, where they're so engaged. They don't know that they're doing yoga. They're just having a great time with their friend Tati Bumpkin on an adventure into the forest or down to the seaside on a story with music and rolling around on the floor, having the best time. So what I love you said about with children, you want to be doing less, but then our program is really meaty. And what I love is that the program is meaty, but that's almost, I always think of it like a production. That's like the outside of it, but once you're on the stage or in that classroom or in the production, it's clear, it's concise, it's just fun, music, movement, storytelling, and adventure with that holistic approach. Kids have no idea there's all of that, but what's great is then for the parents and the teachers and the schools and the nurseries, there's all of that to go with it. And I think when you see that, then you're like, oh, they're not just rolling around being a worm. Wow, that's so great that when they do cat and they wave their paw, it's a pre-writing skill because it strengthens the shoulders or crosses the midline, or whatever it might be. It's just so clever. I mean, yeah, I remember when I first learned about it, I was just blown away by how much there is to being a worm, how much can be benefited.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And I mean, one of the sort of side effects really of doing the classes, because as you say, you teach and I teach as well, and is that being able to reconnect with your own inner child as an adult. And so dropping your guard, and as a parent, if you've ever done this with your children, and it's much harder for women or mothers because they're always thinking about the next thing. But if you actually try and come into the moment and play with the child, then, they're so good at it. They're so present and they're innately mindful. And we've lost that ability really through external pressures. So reconnecting with our children and doing activities with them, either as a teacher or a parent, however it is, you access your inner child and you find a kind of inner stillness, and you benefit from the yoga inspired concept as well. So that's a really nice byproduct. And the teachers and the franchisees, they get really fit from doing the sessions as well, because it's quite physical. I mean, the other thing about yoga that we love in our sessions is that it moves the body in every different direction. So yoga is perfectly suited for a class that's working on physical development, whereas a lot of other physical activities, they're maybe not as comprehensive in the range of movements. So it's another reason why the yoga inspired moves. And we say yoga inspired because obviously it's not necessarily yoga as you would imagine it as an adult. We incorporate breath and movement and relaxation, but it's much more playful than holding a pose, say, as for a 3-year-old. We're just making the approximate shapes. So you're just planting that seed really, and they notice how they feel good afterwards, and they want to know. They're like, what can I do if I can't sleep? What's a good thing to do, when my legs ache? And they really get it. So it's like a bit like self-care from a very early age. So taking responsibility for their own bodies.
Yeah. And like you said, I love that, exactly that, planting the seed, and even down to one of the things that the classes do is help children to self-regulate and really ask themselves, how do I feel today? Am I tired? Am I energized? Rather than having that adult saying, you're tired, you need to sit down, you need to have more energy, you need to do work, you need to sit here, sit at this desk, write this out, and having that person at the front. But the way that our classes are created. Oh, let me hang on. Here's like a Blue Peter presenter. Here's one I made earlier. So for anyone that's listening and can't see, I'm holding up Tati Bumpkin, who is the doll that leads our classes up to 7 years. And Tati really is just like a manifestation of the children. And I love that. So if at the beginning of the class, Sam always teaches that if for instance you can tell that there's a few anxious children, or there's a few shy, or you can just sort of, you use your emotional awareness, and you can tell that, you can sort of say, you can hold Tati up and she'll have a little whisper in your ear, and you can say, Tati Bumpkin feels a little bit nervous today, so she's just going to have a lie down on her mat for a moment. If anyone else is feeling nervous and you don't want to join in, that's absolutely fine. You could just have a little sit down in your mat. Or if Tati Bumpkin's full of energy and you might be too, or you might be feeling really tired, how are you feeling today? And I love it when you do that, and you really teach children that self-regulation, so they can kind of tap in and go, you know what, I can't sleep. What did Tati Bumpkin do when she couldn't sleep? Or what did we do? And it's so clever. I mean, as I say, I'm always blown away. I've been here 2 years and I'm so impressed with the program. Okay, so moving on, what do you love most about what you do?
Oh, well, I think it's what I said earlier about just the diversity in the day, owning my own time. This is a really fun business. Like, I mean, what we do is fun. We deal in fun. And so, it's trying to maintain that thought through everything we do. So not to take things too seriously, just going with the flow. A very yogic philosophy is the only constant is change. Mm-hmm. So, things don't work out, change direction, being able to be really fluid. So an example of that was in COVID, where, our business dropped to zero because there were no children available. Because what 3-year-old wants to look at a computer screen? And so we had to be really flexible. We had to change direction, thinking of new creative ways to, do what we do. And we came out of that period with a Lloyds Bank Small Business of the Year award for our kind of flexibility. And one of the things that was nice about that was that the franchisees, although initially, and Hannah, you'll know this, I don't really like the word franchising because it's at odds with yoga and holistic and creative, and it's just the opposite of all the things I love. But the model of scale that franchising offers is such a collaborative model. So because we're all working in separate geographic locations but doing the same thing, means that there's a lot of sharing of best practice, really supporting each other. And that is very unique in the kind of business world, where companies are often in competition, where, there isn't that much collaboration in it. Having come from this world now for 15 years, it amazes me how little knowledge is shared and disseminated and learned from across other sectors. So during the pandemic, all of us really pulled together, and we created a new program. We created, online trainings, and, we just used that time really kind of well to be prepared for the next stage after the pandemic finished, when we knew our program would be even more needed. So it's really nice working in a collaborative way with the network, with our franchisees, our teachers. It's really fun. Like I said, we deal with fun. And I've learned a lot from working with children in terms of dropping the ego, dropping the adult self. So, trying to see things more from that perspective, and trying to be more mindful in my approach to business and dealing with people. So if that doesn't sound too corny, it is a very joyful place to be working in that sector of the sort of 0 to 11-year-olds. And we've got so much to learn from them.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. And when you talk about franchising as well, and you were saying, people don't want to share their ideas, and that is what I think, when you're looking at the positives, that is just what makes it so special and makes it so different as well. Is that, of course, anyone else that has a competitive business doesn't want to share their ideas. You're in competition. But what's brilliant about franchising is it's really inclusive, and it takes away that elbows out approach, and it's kind of one wins, everybody wins, and makes it really, really special. So although it can have a bit of a stigma to it, actually, I think for us it's a really brilliant approach, and it works really, really well.
I know. I think it works really well for women who are time poor, but have a huge amount of knowledge to share.
And maybe don't have business experience as well. Like, can be so daunting. If you've never worked in business or you just don't know how to do it, there's simple little things from HMRC or whatever it might be, to setting up a business, doing your profit and loss, doing how marketing, sales, there can be so much to it, but it can be really daunting. But this way, when you are franchising, then it doesn't have to be, because that's all there for you, and it's all you're taught all of the tricky stuff, so you can do what you love, and the tricky stuff is shown to you.
Yeah, and I think that for me and my life, as Hannah said, I like doing a lot of different things, not only within my work, but personally. And so I don't really like taking anything too seriously. And so this is the perfect environment for me. And, you know, at the end of the day, we're all doing the best we can do. You know, I've got 2 kids. Obviously, the first one is now 21 because he was a baby when I started, and we adopted a daughter as well. So I've been present for them, which was really important to me as well. But I didn't solely want to do that either. I still wanted to have a business and a life outside being a mum. But I do a lot of competitive swimming, so I love doing that. I do a lot of walking. I mean, I just think life is so multifaceted, and we can have it like that if we set it up right, and not really taking anything quite too seriously. I don't know if that sounds bad from a business perspective, but
no,
I do take my business seriously. Obviously, I mean, we've been going 20 years, so that's testament to that. But you'll know from my office hours and from the things I do, you know, I'm very flexible, and that's what I really appreciate about this career, I think.
Yeah, definitely. You take the business seriously, but you don't take yourself too seriously. And actually that's what makes the franchising, like our franchising, really special as well. I love what you said there with it enables particularly women. It's not that we don't want men, but particularly women to, as close as possible, have it all. If that is that's a term that, you know, we don't use that much anymore, but able to have a career that you love, doing something that is purpose-led and can be a really great income for you and your family, but then also be present and not miss those sports days and not miss those morning drop-offs and things like that. And it gives you, like, funnily enough, even though Sam is the owner of the company, I think being a franchisee with us gives you as close an opportunity as possible to have that kind of lifestyle where you have that control over your hours and your business and what you do and being with your family and kind of doing both, but also doing both, but without being them completely burnt out as well. I think that's what's really special.
Yeah, I mean, the phrase having it all is really, you know, not great, is it? Because it implies that if you don't have it all, you have something less than it all. And that really isn't the case. I think the reason why we sort of went on to franchising, we drifted a bit, was really because I suppose what I'm talking about here is as well the opportunity to earn passive income, which is to make money whilst you're not working. I guess that is a huge driver for me. Because when I've always been self-employed since I've been 17, you know, well, since I left college, really, my 20s, self-employed designer, and that's a given because I come from a family of entrepreneurs who never have jobs. But I soon realized that wasn't really any good either, because when I wasn't working, I wasn't earning any money, so I had to look at other models. So I did look at it in a kind of very strategic way, I guess, but that was all within the framework of being creative, because that's my motivation for everything really is just creation of things, whether it's, I don't know, painting or, you know, making something, or like I wrote the songs for Tatty Bumpkin and I absolutely love doing that, working with the singer and the production team, and, you know, so whatever it is. Yeah, so I think that's what I like most about my job, in answer to your question, that ultimately I get the opportunity to create and devise whatever I want within the kind of flexibility of my lifestyle. So, I mean, the monetary side of things is really secondary to me. I have to say that I could, and most of our team could probably be earning way more money doing a 9-to-5 job. I'm pretty sure I could definitely be, you know, more monetary rewarded. But that just never crosses my mind. It's quite interesting. I didn't really think of that until just then, because a lot of people, money is the driver, and obviously you need a certain level to have freedom and fun. So that is for sure. But beyond that, it's interesting how that hasn't really been my driver. I think that's a driver. do you think that's a driver for you?
I definitely used to think that money was a big driver for me, and I think it's been a driver to an extent, but I've realized recently, actually just this year, that it's not enough for me. I think meaning, purpose, and joy is far more important to me than money or material things. And it's not, and so it's interesting because money obviously creates freedom and opportunities to then live a better life, and you and I talk about this because it's so like contradictory, because we, you know, we love, like, you know, if it's sunny, the freedom to go paddleboarding or go kayaking or do whatever you want to do in the time that you have and when you want to do it. And money buys freedom to do that, obviously, especially when you create what you're talking about, which is recurring or passive income. So I don't know is the answer. It's something I'm diarising about a lot at the moment to try and work out what it is that really drives me, because it used to be. I'm a big recognition is something that drives me, actually.
A status.
Like to be recognised.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's status, but I think it's recognition.
No, but it is status. I read such a good podcast of how actually that is everyone's driver underneath all the layers, if you strip it back. So recognition, it's not like saying, you know, it's just like if you feel undermined, you know, and you have that kind of childlike response, or you feel like someone's not respecting you, it's because they're not recognizing your status. And when you walk into a room and you know, at a party, people will ask you what you do, you know, it's that, isn't it? Like, I want to be able to say something that puts me in a certain position.
And actually, significance, isn't it? It's like you feel significant. I mean, that's quite a big one for me, is significance. And actually, I think a lot of our franchisees often say that they love that about doing something like this, because when you say that's what you do, because it's so unique, people are like, and same for you with what you do, I think. And I used to be a dancer for years, and my identity was so gripped to that, because people would be like, wow, that's so interesting, like, tell me what you do, that's so interesting. And I think the same with this, it's so unique that it does make, I think it's a very cool kind of thing for people to be like, it's just so different from the norm. It's not like, oh, I'm a computer programmer, or I do analytics, or I do SEO. It's like, I run this. And, you know, I think people are really intrigued by that.
Running your own business is something that's really, it is, I think it's a bit of a mystery to people who don't do it. I'm not sure they know what to think, but on the whole, I feel like people are very respectful of someone who runs their own business, because, you know, I mean, definitely for Tatty Bumpkin, I think the thing I'm proudest of is probably the fact that my seed of an idea generates X amount for the economy nationally every year. And X amount for the income for the franchisees. And, you know, you're not selling a t-shirt, you're selling a lifestyle. That's a big thing. And I'm immensely sort of humbled by the fact that people want to change their life to do something like this. And I feel very proud that I was given the idea and sort of, you know, had the power to disseminate it in a way to really I wouldn't say like a Mother Teresa or anything like that, you know, don't get me wrong, but, you know, I just feel proud that I created something from a seed of an idea, from nothing, you know. And I think that's true for anyone who runs a business, is underlying it all, is like, God, I did that, you know, I came up with this. And same for all our franchisees, you know, they create wealth, happiness, success, whatever, and skills from running their own business. And that feels different to having a job, probably. Not that I'd know, because things I've never had. And that, by the way, is just because I don't like being told what to do. And Hannah will agree with that.
Well, I would never tell you what to do.
No. That'd be a mistake.
Oh, no, would never. Sam, it's been so good chatting to you today. Thank you so much for your time. That was a nice insight into Children Inspired by Yoga and Tatty Bumpkin. We'll be back here again very, very soon. So watch this space. And thank you so much for listening.
Thanks, Hannah. Take care.